What's going on? My name is Marcus Whitley, and this is Good Behavior. Now, you can find me on all social media at I am Marcus Whitley and find any of my books, Both Sides of the Street, Choices and Consequences, Greatness Under Pressure, and Battling Demons, all on Amazon. Now, in today's episode, I have a special guest with me, which I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her story.
So, hi, my name is Yaritza Rodriguez, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about my story of how I became a pilot and all the adversities I had to overcome to be able to get here. A little bit about my background: born in Puerto Rico, spent actually my childhood in Brooklyn till I was about 10 or 11 years old. Neighborhood started getting a little bad, well, actually a lot of bad. And my parents decided that it was time to make a move. My mom, I think, was more concerned with us not becoming statistics, not losing her sons primarily to the streets. And then we moved to Puerto Rico. So I spent my adolescence in PR. I'm not sure that was much different. I remember getting to Puerto Rico and, we spoke some basic Spanish in the house, but we didn't really know how to read or write.
Okay.
So that first summer that we spent there, my mom subscribed to the newspaper so that we can learn how to read. And then, she would test us at the end of the day when she got home from work and was like, give me 3 stories that you read. Not sure that was very helpful because it was like, well, there was a massacre in this town, they killed this person in this town. Yeah, so it was kind of like, we just left Brooklyn for this. But nonetheless, I started to rebel as an adolescent. I was definitely, I think, what we would call a troubled teen. No way around it. I definitely gave my parents a run for their money. My mom joined the military while we were in Puerto Rico and ended up getting orders to get transferred over to Maryland. Got myself into some trouble, almost got us kicked off base. Not proud of that at all. But I think even as a young adult, I was able to recognize that I was at fault. And it sucked to kind of see the situation, the predicament I put my family in. My mom had worked so hard to get to that point. My siblings, their future was promising because they were, looking to join the military. And here I was getting into trouble as a young adult. So I got into a little mess, and thankfully, because I took ownership, I think I remember the judge saying, you're probably one of the first youths that has come in here and was just like, I did it. Whatever you got to do, then I'm going to take it. And they just kind of gave me a little slap on the wrist, made me pay some fines, made me do a whole lot of community service. And once I completed that, I just kind of felt like I owed it to my family to just peace out, get out of there and let them be great. And if I was going to be living my life to the way I wanted to live it, then at least it wasn't going to affect them directly. Ended up in Mass and met the father of my sons, who actually, ironically, we met when he was like two days out of prison. Yeah, we met literally with him at a liquor store. I was cashing my check from work, and he was there with his family buying drinks so that they can celebrate his freedom after a significant bid.
Great place to meet somebody.
Right? I know. That was the first red flag. But you know me, I love to look at life through rose-colored lenses. So, they just look like flags. They're never red. But yeah, we kind of dealt with what came with that. I think to some degree, there was something in me that just, for lack of a better term, just kind of liked the bad boys, liked what that lifestyle offered and was drawn to it. And then, you start getting older and now we have children and now you got to change the script for the sake of the boys. I certainly, didn't want my boys to end up in the streets. I didn't want that for them. So I've been working in medicine for the past 20 years, servicing the community through that route. I taught in multiple schools in this area, so a lot of the medical assistants, CNAs that you have out putting work have probably been taught their clinical skills at some point by me. And then about 3 years ago, when my youngest son graduated high school, I decided it was time to do something different. medicine fed my kids, but I wanted to get into something that was going to help me feed their kids. And my boys actually teamed up and went half on a discovery flight. And that's where it all started. It was a Mother's Day gift. I remember getting to the airport in Northampton. They had booked me like a 1 hour. The discovery flight is just pretty much they take you up in the air for an hour. They show you around, and that's pretty much it. And I did my discovery flight, and I remember, I'm nosy. I like to ask 10,000 questions. So, of course, the first thing I asked was, like, is there anything I should know? And he's like, yeah, if at any point you feel like you're starting to get sick, just let me know and we'll turn back around. And I'm like, well, why? And he's like, because people get sick. A good 85% of people get in this cockpit and they're excited. And the moment we start going up. And now smaller aircrafts are a little different from a big aircraft. Big aircraft are more steady. There's more people. There's distraction. You're in a small aircraft, a single engine aircraft. It's just pretty much, there's 2 rows. It's kind of like the inside of a car. It's driver, passenger, a pilot, co-pilot, and then enough space for 2 people in the back. So he said, you're going to feel everything, all the turbulence, you feel it all. So if you feel sick, just let me know. We'll spin back. And the whole time, I'm getting ready. I'm excited. I got my equipment, my headset, I got my little knee pad to take my notes. Don't know what I'm noting, but, I'm just excited to be there. And the whole time I'm trying to mentally train myself, don't get sick, don't get sick, don't get sick. Your boy spent a lot of money on this, don't get sick. So, I try to occupy my mind by just asking a gazillion questions while I was in there. Every time he touched something, I'm like, what was that? What'd you do that for? What'd you do this for? And managed to get the full hour, managed to get the best bang for our buck.
Now, that's a good way to distract yourself and learn everything while you're up there.
Right. And it was a good way to, I think, show, or not necessarily show, more so, I'd realize, oh, this sparked my interest. Maybe this is actually going to be more exciting. And it was a challenge. There's so much multitasking that goes on in a cockpit. I was like, oh, I like this because I don't see this ever getting boring because there's always something to do, always something to adjust, something to pull on, to push, this is it. This is going to be exciting.
Oh, nice. So that's how your career with that began.
Yes, that's how it all began. I literally, did my hour, and right when we were getting ready, actually, no, about half hour in, we flew out about half hour and then started turning back around. And the instructor said, do you want to take controls of the airplane? And he's like, mostly people are kind of afraid to do this. They're intimidated, but you seem engaged. You seem interested. I was like, heck yeah. Hold on. If I can actually put this into work, let's see. And he's like, if you have at any point, you feel scared, you feel like you can't do this, you start getting nervous, just real simple. 2 words, your plane. And he said, I'll repeat my plane just to acknowledge that I've received the command. You say your plane and it's a wrap. You get your hands off the controls and I'll take it from here. And I got in and, he kind of gave me certain maneuvers and he's like, hey, do you remember how we did, this 30-degree bank? Like, yeah. Wait, hold on. It was over here, right? We looked over here. He's like, yep, that's right. Let's do it. And then he's like, wow, you're natural. This is awesome. Don't look sick at all. You're an adrenaline junkie, aren't you? And I'm like, I sure am. And I pretty much controlled the plane until we were getting back to the runway. And then, of course, the descent was on him because I definitely didn't know what I was doing. Had never descended a plane before or been in the cockpit of a descending plane. He took control, and then once we got there, he's like, how'd you like it? I'm like, oh, my God, I loved it. When do I start? When can I? He's like, really? I said, I would love to. So after the discovery flight, you get a student pilot certificate. So that's kind of where everything starts, is with the student pilot cert.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what is it like being a pilot?
It's exhilarating. I for a lack of a better term, it's just, again, I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I think it satisfies that constant need for that tingle in my belly. But it's an empowering feeling, honestly. It's just, a lot of people are scared to just get in an airplane and travel, from point A to point B, much less be actively in a cockpit, fully controlling what this bird is doing, where it's going, how it's navigating through winds and gusts and, heat pockets. It's so much fun. It really is. I recommend 100%. It is so much fun.
I'm scared to death of planes. So
Oh, I got to take you off then. We got to go take a flight. I assure you, I think, see, the best way to fight your demons is facing them, right?
on the ground. I mean, for me,
That's
that's the safest place for me to fight them.
That's a good one. See, again, I remind you, I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I'll face these bad boys anywhere. um, uh, but yeah, it's what's it like? Honestly, it's just tons of fun. For me, it's a great way. I've always dreamed of traveling the world. And what better way to do that than at some point being able to get paid to do that?
That is true. So, what kind of planes do you fly?
I fly single engine aircrafts. The types of aircrafts that I have flown thus far have been Cessnas and Pipers. So to kind of break it down a little, I guess we can say the Cessnas are like the Honda Accord of small airplanes, where the Piper is like the Maserati. And pretty much obviously, mechanisms make them completely different, but the primary thing that we look at is the dashboard. So in the Pipers, in the Cessnas, in the older aircrafts, all the gauges are like old school, just kind of regular, like you would see in a car, where in the Piper, it's what we call a glass cockpit. So everything is electronic. Your GPSs, all your gauges, everything is kind of touching stuff versus actually adjusting over here to make those happen.
Okay. Now, I know you said you're an adrenaline junkie, but do you ever get scared up in the air?
Yeah, I think it's, human nature. There are certain elements that I can't control. I know how to navigate a plane. I know I have some aeronautical knowledge, so I know how to dominate it, how to get myself back into a safe space. But there are elements, right? The weather. I can't control the weather. I can't control, the sudden gust that's going to make that plane completely shake up. And that's scary. Like
I can imagine.
yeah, that can be scary. But no different, I suppose, from being in a car and driving in the snow, and you kind of slide off. Is it scary? Yeah, but once that car comes to a stop, it's like, whew, that was close. All right, let's get back on the road.
Yeah. So, what kind of places have you traveled?
I've actually traveled more locally with the school and the planes that I've rented at the school. So New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, New York. And I say that's local, but in FAA terms, that's actually considered a cross country. Because anytime you cross over from one state to another, it's considered a cross country. So it's been, not so local, not where we're going out into, have I been to Puerto Rico? No, I would love to. There's a lot of planning that goes into those. So I'm certain that at some point I'll get to that. But
Are the smaller planes able to make it that far, or do you have to stop and fuel up again?
you definitely have to stop and fuel up. You do a weight and balance, and you kind of calculate. There's mathematical equation that goes into flying a plane. And of course there's flight planning. You have to figure out how far you're going. No different from, again, a car. If you're going on a road trip, how far am I going? How much fuel is this going to require? What's my middle point so that I can stop, fuel back up, and then keep going. The small plane will fly anywhere between 3.5 to 4.5 hours. So, flight to Puerto Rico, flight to Florida, those are about within that range. You're cutting it close, but you're getting there with sufficient fuel.
Okay, so how could somebody become a pilot if they were interested?
Well, for one, you have to do the discovery flight that I was talking about. It's a pretty much 1 hour that you go up. The instructor is who's in control. If they see that you're engaged, if you're interested, you're bold and brave enough to do it, then they'll probably, release some control. But you start off with your discovery flight, and then there's ground schooling that goes into it. So I started doing my ground schooling at the airport, where you pretty much just sit down with a licensed pilot, a CFI, a certified flight instructor, and you get kind of one-on-one. It's expensive because you're paying anywhere between $100 and $175 an hour of somebody's time. Now, the problem is that then once you establish a rapport with a person and, we've been up in the air and now we cool, those sessions kind of became more of like, we're chopping it up, let's sit here and let's catch up. And then I'd be in the parking lot like, damn, I just paid $175 to find out about his kid and his daughter who's in college. And like, I'm not really learning this way. This is not good. But there are online courses. So again, I just kind of, at home we try to give each other gifts, for that are actually useful to us. So for that Christmas or whatever, I told my boys, all right, this is what I want. I need you guys to come together and pay for my ground schooling so I can keep saving up and paying for my flight classes, because they're kind of separate. So there's two types of schools. There's what they call 61 or 141. The 141 is a more structured, like regular show up to class every day. You have, curriculum that you go by. The 61 is a little more lax. That's the one that I did. You kind of go at your pace. For the private pilot license, it can cost anywhere between 16 to 18 grand. I ain't have that sitting around. I'm just going to be honest. So, I paid as I went. I did a ground class. I paid right then and there. I would save up for 1 hour of airtime, which that can range, anywhere between $360 to $450 for 1 hour, because you're renting the airplane, you're renting the instructor, you're having to fuel back up once you bring that airplane back. So there's a lot that kind of, it's expensive. When I started the schooling, one, I was the oldest person, and two, I can take great pride in saying I was the only brown girl in that classroom. And I wasn't there with mommy and daddy's money. So it took me a whole lot longer to get it. A lot of these students in 2 months were coming back with their licenses. I'm a private pilot, but they can afford to take a class every single day and get up there. I picked up a second job so that my first job was paying my bills at home and the second job was strictly for schoolwork. So I managed to be able to do couple of ground classes and maybe a couple of air lessons a month, and just kind of worked my way up. So I did my ground course. The ground course prepares you for the written exam. Okay. Think about it kind of like as your permit, right? Yeah. You sit down and take the written exam, 60 questions, multiple choice, 3 answers for each question, all of which can be the right answer depending on the scenario. But you need a 70 or greater to pass, and that cert lasts for 2 years. So once you pass that written exam, now you have 2 years to actually complete and get the private pilot license, get your PPL.
Okay. Now I know a question a lot of people are going to have after hearing you answer that would be, with it being as expensive as it is it worth it? Are you going to make that money back?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even as a private pilot. Okay, so remember I mentioned like renting the airplane. Let's say on average it was $450 drop, right? So obviously whoever's going to request your services isn't worried about paying $450 for the hour to rent that aircraft. So I think you lock in a completely different market, a completely different kind of people. Like I'm sure you've seen the anecdote of like the water bottle, right? You go to the corner store, you get that bottle for 50 cents. You go to the restaurant, it's now $1.50. You're at the airport, that same bottle is $5. You're still thirsty, you're going to buy it. So I think it's the market, you know what I mean? The people that are going to reach out to you are the folks that understand that renting a private aircraft and a private pilot to service them is going to cost them a pretty penny. So, absolutely. I say, invest, even if you have to go bit by bit by bit by bit. And take your time with it. Do it so it doesn't break the bank. I can't say that I ever felt like, oh my gosh, I'm drowning. I can't. If I could afford it this week, I could afford it. And if I couldn't, then I know I got to go ham next week. And I got to work a little harder to get some more so that I can make that happen. But, absolutely worth it. There's 3 different levels to it. You get the private pilot, then there's an instrument rating, and then there's your commercial rating. A commercial pilot starts off fresh out of school at $180K a year. So is it worth it? Absolutely. Do you get back your 17 grand? A few times over. It's not, I suppose you don't make as much as a private unless you're well connected, but even then there's jobs like, island hoppers. You go to, say, for instance, Hawaii, and Hawaii has all these little islands that surround the island of Hawaii that are still part of Hawaii. I think they charge, $50 per person to get them from one site to the other. So I'm not sure exactly how much that's going to pay, but imagine how many people, how many tourists go over there that want to island hop and explore. If you're filling your plane, with if you got 5 people and you're dropping them every 10, 15 minutes, that can add up easily.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that just made a lot of viewers happy.
No, there's definitely money to be made. And again, then you're not just working, you're exploring the world and you're doing it for free and you're the one that's getting paid. You go from paying to do this to being the one getting paid to do it.
That's incredible.
It is.
So, is there anything else that you have going on that you'd like the viewers to know about? Or anything you got coming up?
No, not just yet. I'm working now on my instrument rating because that's the ultimate goal, is to get to commercial. I love the small single engine aircraft, but my ultimate goal is to... All right, so I'm 42 years old. In the eyes of the FAA, I'm getting old. So whatever I'm doing, I need to move, and I need to move fast. My personal goal is to make it to commercial pilot by the time I'm 45, because they'll only let me fly till I'm 65. So the way I see it is, if by 45 I've reached that goal, and then I'm out, at that point, then it's just like, then you live the pilot life. They don't necessarily, I mean, they have a home, but they're rarely ever home. And I guess now that my boys are grown and I can go explore, then that's what I'm trying to do, just kind of go work commercial and wake up in Ireland and go to bed somewhere else, and just keep it flowing and keep it going and create some generational wealth for my babies and their babies and their babies' babies. And hopefully start something, hopefully, who knows, what if, we can eventually... My son's in transport, so I'm like, that would be awesome. You're controlling transportation on the ground. I can control it from the air. Like, let's make this a family affair. That would be great.
I mean, traveling the world and getting paid for it, that's amazing.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I really am.
Okay, so I hope this episode was able to help you understand what it's like to be a pilot. And if that's something you're into, definitely look into it. Now, would you like to let the viewers know how they can get in contact with you if they're interested or just want to check you out?
Yes, absolutely. My email is Yaritza Marie 810@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram, yay_rod. And yeah, any questions that you have, shoot them forward. I'll be more than glad to refer you guys over to the schools that I've been to, the instructors that I've interacted with. If at any point you want to get up there in the air with me, I'm game. Let's go. It counts for hours for me and it counts for hours for you. So everybody's winning. Let's get it.
All right. Well, my name is Marcus Whitley and this is Good Behavior. So until the next episode.